This computer. Awesome. And so the idea is these sessions are not hugely popular, but a little bit popular. And we often get questions about how can I access the information if I couldn't attend. Sometimes we do a couple of these during the winter. It depends on, we started doing them during this awful pandemic. It was one of the nice things that came out of it, I guess. We started to meet the skiers face to face a bit more via the evil Zoom tool. But it's proven, I think, a bit beneficial for us to interact with skiers. So we will put this on our YouTube channel and accessible from our website as well. So having said all this, let me make sure I assume you guys can see this.
Yes.
So I have about a dozen slides. I'll be talking for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And then, you can ask questions throughout. And for sure, at the end, we'll also have a pause. And, sometimes I get so busy talking that it's good to also answer questions at the back end of this. So thank you for being with us. And let's just launch right in. So 2024 is CSM number 58. It's an important little thing to highlight in red with an exclamation mark. We've lived through a few years of a very different world as we've had this global pandemic that had a big impact on our event and on society at large. In 21 and 22, you probably know that we went to a virtual event. And last year in 2023 was our first in situ event after the pandemic. And each CSM right now feels precious. The event was started in 1967. The only thing that I can remember is approximately year 2. It was a little bit after the 98 ice storm, around year 2000. We had one day that was canceled because the trail was destroyed on the Friday night. And so the Saturday trail was canceled. But other than that, the event kind of plows through undaunted by no matter what the world throws at it. And we are at number 58, and we're very proud of it. So tonight, we've done the welcome and introductions. I'll describe a little bit of the 2024 landscape. And here I don't mean the physical landscape of where we're going to ski. That'll come a little bit later. I just kind of mean what the world is like in 2024, because it does have an impact on the kind of event we put forth. And I could safely say that it had a little bit of an impact on the touring category of the Canadian Ski Marathon in particular. The ski marathon sees, in the 50th anniversary, I think we had 1,800 skiers approximately. We see 14 to, on a good year, 1,600 skiers, but more typical is 1,400 to 1,500 skiers. And roughly half of that is Toureur des Bois, and half of that is Tours, kind of roughly. And that trend has continued even through the challenges that we had in the pandemic and in 2023, when we saw a fairly serious decrease in the number of skiers. And I'll touch a little bit on that. There was less than 1,100 skiers last year, but that ratio of 50-50 is still being maintained. I'll describe our team a little bit. I think it's important for folks to understand who we are as you sign up for registration and you give us your hard-earned money to come ski in the event. Kind of describe, who we are that's putting this team thing. And then I'll talk about the 2024 offering more specifically, describe the trail, and a few comments on the skier guide, which will come out, let's just say, shortly. The first draft is written, we're reviewing it now. So the 2024 landscape, I am mostly referring to a post-COVID world and our need for our event to adapt. Even though most of us go in stores now, most of us don't wear masks anymore, but you still see COVID masks, in grocery stores or in shopping malls. And in 2023, if you're somebody who went out to restaurants, you probably noticed, tips are a little bit higher. Some restaurants are short-staffed. And so the Canadian Ski Marathon is not immune to all this. We've had to adapt the event, I would say, as a consequence mostly of the pandemic. It's hard for us to know exactly. We've always known that the event has seen a very slow and gradual decline in the number of skiers. It was a bit more drastic last year than we expected. And so what we've done, because we're hardcore, passionate people who love the ski marathon, I've literally done it for the last 35 years or so, never missing a year because I love the event. And it's important for me and all the board members and all the volunteers. They just want to see this thing to continue. I would love to say for another 58 years, that would be out of this world. But so we need to adapt. And so, why is the event done a little bit differently? Because we're adapting to the way the world is around us. The biggest impact this year is, you'll see, we're centered around Montebello much more than we've been for a while. Typically, we're a linear trail. It's part of the DNA of the ski marathon to be a linear trail that's 160 kilometers long, historically from Lachute to Gatineau. And then, in the 90s, we started to kind of go in both directions. And then in the last 7 or 8 years, we started to ski from Mont Tremblant as well. But this idea of a linear trail was really important. Because of some of the challenges that we've had, the event has changed. And, I'm about to describe what those changes look like. Excuse me, I'm struggling to change slides. Here we go. So just a short little bit about our team, because as you register, you sometimes have to interact with us. As you know, you register through a Zone 4 kind of portal, if I can call it that. Fear not, when you make a registration, and if there's an error, there's people that are there to help you. You probably know there's an email address called info@skimarathon.ca. I have it repeated at the back end of the presentation. It's also on our website. And you can get in touch with us, and we're always there to help you through whatever issues you might have for registration. I will say the most common thing that we see is someone maybe is having trouble registering for the category that they want, and sometimes they have to reach out to us, or they don't understand. There's all these dorms. Am I supposed to pick a dorm? Where am I going to park my car? And they're not sure what to do. You just kind of reach out to us, and we're there to help you out and answer your questions. We are a heavily kind of volunteer-based organization, to keep that in mind. We're pretty good at responding. I'll admit that sometimes, we can be a little bit slow. We have contracts with a variety of people, but we have 2 main individuals who are paid staff. Marianne Adam. She's at the office. She's the one who answers the phone and answers the emails. She knows the event quite well. She's been involved for a few years. She has an amazing personality. She's very friendly, and she's always there to help out the skiers who have any issues. If you've kind of seen, if you've been with us for a few years, you've known that we've had an event director for 10 years, Mr. Frederick Menard, who was had a fabulous impact over his 10-year stay with the event. Eventually, was someone who decided to move on late last year. We hired some folks. We lost some folks. I can say it's, directly, indirectly related to COVID. We've had some issues with staff turnover. I won't deny it. But now we're kind of a mature and stable position where we have JF Picard as our event manager. And he also knows the event. He's been involved with us for more than 10 years, I would say. It's a name that most skiers are not familiar with because he's been working in the background. But in terms of operations and logistics, there are not a lot of people that know the event as well as he does. So we're very excited that he's come on board and kind of help with the plan. Where is your dorm going to be? How is your dorm going to operate? What's the food going to look like? What's the bus schedule going to look like? All the very operational stuff that he knows inside out. He'll be putting this together. He's doing it as we speak through the winter. We do have over 200 volunteers. I always want to emphasize that. The event couldn't take place with our marvelous volunteers who commit not only on the weekend, but we've already had operations meetings with volunteer leads who get involved, early in the winter to put their teams in place to get ready to host the event. So always have a pleasant smile when you see a volunteer on the course. I enjoy saying that because those folks are awesome. And you've just met 3 board members There's 9 of us who have kind of defined the event this year and kind of are very active, a bit more active than normal to put the event in place because of the changes that we're making. And all of us are folks who, it's very obvious, it's volunteer work. We love the event. We do it to try to put this event and to make it as the best skier experience. We always think of the skier experience. So in 2024, just to let you guys know, there will be a Canadian Ski Challenge. Registration is about to open. This was launched for the first time last year as a kind of the post-pandemic virtual event. It's roughly patterned around kind of the culture of the Canadian Ski Marathon, but it does not offer the same awards. It's relatively inexpensive. It's free for kids of a certain age. And the idea is to motivate people to go skiing outside all winter and to kind of partake. And of course, we have the in-situ event that is heavily centered around Montebello. And this is the details that we're about to get into. And it does offer the usual distances. In terms of the culture and the definition of the CSM, you know, at the core, it's 160 kilometers of trail divided in 5 sections per day of lengths of, 12 to 22 kilometers at most. Some years that changes because we have to adapt the trail. We were able to keep that quite well this year, if I could say it this way. There are slight differences for the tours. You've probably seen us talk a little bit about green initiatives in the last couple of years. It's partly motivated by green initiatives. We also wanted to make the event, more affordable and simpler for skiers. Now, I fully appreciate that if you're someone who's done the event for the last 20 years, if suddenly, we're making a bit of a change, that might seem not simpler, but more confusing because it's suddenly not the same thing that you've been doing for 20 years. But at the same time, we know it's important for us that we want to attract new skiers who will have an easier time coming to the event, for who things will be, a little less expensive. And that does mean, removing a bit of, the CSM was great for the tours in terms of flexibility. We had amazing flexibility on what the skiers can do on the weekend. There's no doubt that we've removed a little bit of that flexibility for the sake of simplicity and cost and the environment. Just a couple of quick notes on the Canadian Ski Challenge. I won't dwell on this, but again, it's centered around the CSM culture. It's basically to motivate families to ski together. If somebody, if one of the adults or one of the kids is signed up in the real quote unquote in situ CSM, they can sign up for this and kind of do their training together. Every time people go out for a 15-kilometer section, they get kind of credit. There's an award system of bronze, silver, and gold, depending how many 15-kilometer sections you ski during the winter. I think the dates for it are approximately January 1st, somewhere around the 3rd week of March. That detail is on our website. And it's basically you ski all winter long, and it's $49, and you get badges for your awards and a buff. So the in-situ event, some of this I've already talked about. The Coureur des Bois will see a fairly similar event. They'll have the same kind of start time. They'll be challenged to ski 80 kilometers each day, and they'll go to a gold camp on a Saturday night and sleep outside for the ones who do the gold. But the ones who are doing the bronze and silver, the event will be very, very similar. For the tours, we've basically come up with an idea where the big difference in the past, someone who was a tourer can kind of decide, they can pay their fees, they can come to the event on the weekend, and they can decide what they're going to ski on the Saturday morning. We had this incredible, flexible, shuttle system where buses traveled around the course, and we're kind of committed to leaving, every hour there would be a shuttle bus that would leave from one of the checkpoints and take you to another checkpoint. And so you could really be flexible on what you wanted to ski and what sections you wanted to ski. But in order to have that in place, we did have a lot of buses on the road, and it was fairly expensive. And when people would sign up for touring, whether they would ski 2 sections or 4 sections, they would pay the same fee. The only way that the fee was graduated was depending if you were a junior skier or an adult skier, or if you signed up, before a certain date. But otherwise, even if you skied a little bit, you would still kind of pay the same amount. And so we have a scheme now where, you ski less and you pay less. And again, because we're centered around Montebello, it's even feasible for a lot of folks. We have a lot of skiers from Montreal and Ottawa is kind of the core. I mean, we have people from the Eastern US, from, Western Ontario, and we have skiers from Utah that come and ski with us. But by and large, we know that a big chunk of our population is between Ottawa and Montreal. And so it's fair to say that with a Montebello departure location on both Saturday and Sunday, you could stay at home at night and drive early in the morning and save yourself some money by not having to go to a dorm. Now, to counter to that, of course, it's probably a bit more easier for you if you're at the dorm. We include meals, and then you're right there where the shuttles are, and you can kind of get brought to the start line, immediately on Saturday morning and Sunday morning, right from the dorm that you're staying at. So a little bit about the trail. I've got 3 maps. This is the kind of the general weekend map, and my next 2 slides are on the Saturday and Sunday, so they're a bit easier to understand in terms of what happens on Saturday and Sunday. If you're familiar with the Canuck Ski Reserve, we have a rather heavy reliance on it this year, I guess I would say. But we're not completely in Canuck. We do go a little bit on the outside. And we're not just doing, one loop in Canuck that we do on Saturday, and then we do it in the other direction on Sunday. The trail is a bit more flexible than that. A full description of a section by section is on our website. So by all means, go on our website. You can read kind of a detailed, narrative about section 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And then they're also rated in terms of level of difficulty to help you choose, what you might want to ski on the weekend. We're doing, we know one thing that is not popular with the event is when we're forced to bring the trail to the side of a road. Sometimes there's logging that takes place, and literally, weeks before the event, we may get a bit of bad news and have to suddenly move something. So, we also don't like roadside skiing. Usually when we've done it in the past, it's kind of been, a bit of an emergency or a situation that's happened where sometimes we move the trail at the last minute. Because we're using more established trail, it's a bit easier for us to control that this year. So fingers crossed, we're doing a pretty good job of avoiding roads this year. We have one checkpoint where to reach the checkpoint, the skier will have to remove their skis and walk on the road for, I think, a little over 500 meters. But the trails otherwise are kind of well-established, good skiing trails. We're starting on the Saturday. If you see the word golf, where my cursor is on the left side here, that is L'Héritage golf course. As a matter of fact, kind of managed and co-owned and managed by the person who does the grooming for us. So it's kind of an exciting place to start from. It's outside of the Kanaka Nature Reserve, and we'll travel eastward on Saturday, do a 20-kilometer section, and then go clockwise, around the course. I'll describe the Saturday and Sunday a bit more in my next 2 slides. One thing that's nice is the section lengths are decent. It's 10 to 21 kilometers. Where this blue dot is here is a water safety point because it's a bit of a long section. So we have a halfway point where we'll have a first aid, snowmobile, and offering water to skiers, and the same thing at the bottom at the south end here. And again, in terms of easing of management, both days finish in Montebello, the same finish line. We normally, when you hear the old trail that I spoke of in a moment, that would go from Lachute to Gatineau, we dealt with well over 200 landowners. It was one of the, it was one of the cachet and one of the specialness about the ski marathon is that it was a unique trail that would only get visited once a year. the counter to that, it had a lot of challenges to implement because there were so many landowners to negotiate passage with. And once in a while, there would be an issue. Maybe we damaged a fence by accident, 1 year, and then the next year the landowner is not so happy to let us come on their land. And well, I have less hair than Chris, but so Chris doesn't really pull his hair out, but he does a lot of fabulous work on designing the course and kind of handling all these landowner issues and how do we possibly navigate through this wilderness. So the beauty this year is there were many challenges, but we'll say they were a bit simpler to deal with, and we had more confidence that we were going to come out ahead with a nice trail. And so we do have a nice established trail that we think our skiers will love. We only had maybe 30 landowners to contend with this year. So even though we're mostly in Canuck, there's still a few landowners, but it went pretty well. So my last bullet there, it may seem like I'm ignoring it. It's because I'll talk a bit more about this for the touring in particular. It's something that it's important. It's buses and times to start each section. Well, let me just go to the next slide. But this will be a detail that we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. So on the Saturday, like I was saying, we leave Gave l'Héritage. We travel east, we go north to a checkpoint in Taunton, and then we go to Eskdale, continue to the east and back down to the south to Sandpit. Sandpit and Sport Clay are checkpoints that you've seen in previous years if you're a regular skier with us, and then we'll head on south to Montebello. So as a tourer this year, if you haven't registered already, what you will see is, compared to other years, we need to know what are your intentions for how much skiing you're going to do. And so it's kind of like a lot of events, you have to commit to, am I skiing 30 kilometers or 50 kilometers? What category am I entering? So if you're someone, who's looking forward to a bit of a challenge and you think you want to ski 60 kilometers, let me preface that there are tours who ski 5 sections. It's just not that common, so I don't have it on the slide here. But there are tours who challenge themselves to ski 5 sections. It's just, again, I'll say it's just not that common. What we see the most is probably 4, 3, and 2 sections are quite common. So on the Saturday, you decide to ski 4, 3, 2, or 1 section, and you are always finishing in Montebello. If you ski 1 section, you're skiing the last 16 kilometers, which is relatively, I called it easy. I got this from the trail description on our website. You can go there and look at the details. We also have posted, the meters of elevation gain and elevation drop, and those kinds of things are appealing for you to know. If you're skiing 2 sections, you're doing the last 2 sections of the day, which are the 12 plus the 16 kilometers. And if you're doing the 3 sections, you're doing the 50 kilometers because then you're adding the 21 kilometer section. And obviously, if you're doing 4 sections, then it's 60 kilometers. What we will do for the skiers, they will embark on a bus from whatever dorm they're staying. Most of them are in Papineauville, but the bus travels from one dorm to another, and it will bring the skiers at a designated start time, which will be published in our skier guide. We have a rough idea right now of what that looks like, but we're kind of fine-tuning those numbers. We are very accustomed to managing, 1,000 skiers on the trail, and so we understand very much what a slow skiers would ski like and what a fast skier would ski like. And so we're preparing a very detailed schedule of how we're going to manage the skiers that are going through the Saturday course. And so, as you can imagine, if you're skiing 4 section, you'll start earlier than if you're skiing 2 sections. And so your bus will bring you to an appropriate start line. If we have 50 people that signed up for 4 section, we'll have, a bus or 2 buses that will bring the 50 skiers to that start line. If we have 200 skiers that signed up for 3 sections, we'll have 4 buses, whatever the number of buses might be, that will bring the skiers to that start line for a designated time. So what you're going to have to pay attention to if you're signing up as a tourer is what time do I start? What time do I have to be ready to catch that bus? at the dorm. Or if you're not staying at the dorm, all you have to do is you drive yourself to Papineauville, you go to the high school, there'll be a start departure time published for the bus. You get yourself there a half an hour before that, and then you get on the bus. Because we do not have parking for all the skiers at each of the start lines. And we also don't have shuttle systems to bring you to your car wherever you've left your car. So we have fairly specific parking lots that are defined in the skier guide. And when the event is over, we will bring you to those parking lots with a bus system that will leave the Papineauville center of the universe where the finish will take place. Let me just say that the finish, I said it was in Montebello. That's where the skiing finish will be. Typically what happens there is there are buses that greet the skiers after they partake in a bit of a finish line celebration. And then a bus takes them to the Papineauville High School where they can go get their medal. Maybe they bought a meal for the Sunday night. I will say, just to be clear, if you're buying a ticket to stay at a dorm, that includes, the meals are included. I'm not sure that was very explicitly stated on the registration page. I think it might be now. But just to be clear, if you're buying a dorm for Friday night and Saturday night, you don't get a meal included for Friday night, but for Saturday morning, Saturday night, and Sunday morning, the dorm fees include a cafeteria-style meal at whatever high school, whatever dorm location you are at. Having said that, when you finish on Sunday, there are no meals included. If you want a finish line, we call it a banquet meal. You can kind of pick that item off on our registration page, and and buy that meal. So Sunday, similar but not identical. We've done a good job of. I'm quite sure, I do a lot of skiing, and when I ski a trail in reverse, it's kind of a new experience. There's definitely a bit of repetition, but there's also a lot of difference. So, the day is going to feel fairly different. And so on the Sunday, we ski an inside loop inside Canuck, but we do it counterclockwise. And again, if you ski one section, you're doing the last 16 kilometers. If you're doing two sections, you're doing 32 kilometers, which is, it's this 16 kilometers here. I hope you can see my mouse. And then this section of trail here on Sunday. And if you're doing three sections, it's 52 kilometers. And it's the last three section. You're adding the 20 kilometers here. Your start line would be at Sandpit. And if you're skiing four section, it's roughly 65 kilometers of skiing. And again, the section details in terms of description is on our website. In the past, we had something called the CSM tasters for people who were kind of new to the CSM. Now I don't recall exactly what we have on our registration page, but a CSM.
We still have tasters, Rhea.
We still have tasters, yeah. And so tasters in a one section tour, is kind of the same thing. What we're seeing is quite common for most tours is, they're a bit more confident about Saturday. They know that they're going to go there and have fun and have a big day with their friends, family, on their own, whatever. And most people challenge themselves to ski a bit more on Saturday than on Sunday. And so we're seeing like three sections Saturday, two on Sunday is quite a common thing, 4 and 1. We're seeing kind of, variety on the theme. But it's quite common for skiers, to choose less skiing on Sunday than on Saturday. And the good news there is, I alluded to this a little earlier, the fee is kind of graduated. The more you ski, the more you pay. The less you ski, the less you pay. And so you have an opportunity if you're skiing one section compared to years ago, that there was no such thing. You just paid a flat fee, which was I would say, significantly higher fee. So I'll just do a pitch here. Once you realize how better this isn't for the pocketbook, please motivate all your friends to come skiing. We are looking for more skiers. I didn't make a big pitch about this at the start of the presentation, but 2023 was a hard year with, quite frankly, the first real event after the pandemic. We're not sure if people were nervous coming back. We do know that people change habits, and things change. We always have 800 skiers that are back year after year, and then out of the other thousands of people that we communicate with, a lot of them will come, every couple of years or every 3 years. There'll be different skiers that will come, but typically, we've always managed to have over 1,400 skiers, and it didn't happen last year, and it was extremely challenging. And I can't belittle this point that for 2025 to happen, we need to have skiers show up. We need this event to kind of keep going, and we need people to show their interest by skiing. So don't be shy, come and skiing with us. As if you participated before, it's not a lop it, it's not a race. No one is going to yell track at you, on the course. Most of this will be double track set as per usual, and usually I could say the behaviors on the trail are mostly quite positive. So this slide is a little bit busy. I think I kind of did it for education purposes. I just want to reemphasize this because it is a change. And then the more people understand this, the better. If you have friends that that ask you questions about what does the ski marathon look like this year, there will be no hourly shuttle buses. The tourers will have a specific start time, so they cannot start at whatever time they would like during the day. And I know it's a bit sad to lose that flexibility, but it's really something that the event needed to do to reduce cost to us and to the skiers. So, we're hoping that in the long run, this will bring, more skiers to the event. Everyone skis to one finish line. So we're hoping that will kind of create, a positive atmosphere. And fear not, it doesn't mean that there's going to be a whole lot of crowding at the finish line with too many skiers at the finish line. I was alluding to the fact earlier that we understand, when we have 1,400 skiers on the trail, we understand the distribution of the speeds and the quantities and the categories that people sign for. And we have a spreadsheet. I won't say it's worthy of a PhD, but it's a pretty comprehensive, big, complicated spreadsheet that kind of models the event and the skiers, and it helps us plan the bus schedule and the loading. As you can imagine, we have to care a lot about how many skiers show up at the checkpoints to manage our checkpoint volunteer system and the food that we have at checkpoints. And so we kind of understand how to distribute the skiers, on the course. What I have circled in red here is just to kind of show you as an example what this will look like. The presentation, of course, won't be like this. It's going to be in our skier guide. But as you could see, the Coureur des Bois are starting, the 5:50 time would be a silver skier. And someone who's skiing all 5 sections, would be starting at 7:40 from the same start line because they're skiing 5 sections. And someone who's skiing 4 sections would be starting at 8:30 in the morning. Somebody doing 3 sections would start at 9 o'clock. And I will draw your attention to the fact that there's another start line an hour and a half later for the half marathons. So let just me cover that in case I think an important point to make.
Riel, let me just stop you there.
Yes.
Partially to give you a break and let you have a drink and so on.
Thank you.
But while you've been speaking, there have been questions in the chat on exactly this subject. So I've already answered people, but I think it's so important and of general interest that I can repeat it. So the skiers, the tourers who choose to do 3 sections, ski the same distance, the same trail as the half marathoners. The difference between the 2 categories is that the tourers start at 9 o'clock and ski at typical tourer speeds, which, by the way, the average tourer skis around 7 to 8 kilometers an hour. The half marathoners doing the same distance, we don't let them start till 10:45 on Saturday and 10:30 on Sunday. And it's done for a reason. We are motivating or pushing those skiers to pick up their speed and start to approach the speed of a Coureur de Bois skier. So half marathons are intended to be sort of climbing the ladder toward Coureur de Bois lengths and speeds. And by the way, the Coureur de Bois will ski anywhere from the slower ones might also be 7 or 8 kilometers an hour, and our fastest ones would be averaging over the entire length 13 kilometers an hour.
I'm a Coureur de Bois, and I can't ski at that speed.
Those same Coureur de Bois, just I don't know if this will encourage or discourage people. Our fastest gold Coureur de Bois will pull into Gold Camp about 12:30 in the afternoon, which is unbelievable.
It's ridiculous. Well, mind you, some of them are near, Olympic caliber skiers. Some of them are. So I'll just repeat something. Thank you for letting me have a bit of a drink, Chris. I appreciated that. And so I'll just repeat something that Chris said. So the reason, why would you sign up for a half marathon versus Tour 3 when a tour can be a bit more relaxed? If the idea appeals to you to doing a Coureur de Bois one day, but you don't know if you're quite ready for it, we have this category exactly for that. It's intended for skiers who think they might want to do Coureur de Bois maybe the following year, and they want to know what the challenge is like. And so they actually, if they ski those, we have a half marathon award, and to get the half marathon award, they have to kind of meet the cutoff, and they have to be able to go to the checkpoint before it closes. We still have a closure at 3:30 of the last section. That hasn't changed. And so, if skiers get to the last section a little too late, we can't have the course open forever. Eventually it gets dark, and we have volunteers to manage and safety on the course. So we do close the last section at 3:30. Is the tour cutoff time the same, or is it earlier?
In theory, as in past years, there was an earlier cutoff for tours, but it's really hypothetical this year. It's the 3:30 cutoff will govern.
That we'll be using. And so the half marathoners, have a bigger challenge to make this cutoff, and the intent is for them to see what it's like to be a Coureur de Bois potentially the following year. And so, one of the concerns that people have had about this when they see that there's no shuttles, they're wondering, what happens if I get tired? What happens if I break a ski? Am I left to have a cell phone where I've got to call someone to come and get me because I'm not getting to the finish line the way I signed up for 3 sections, but I broke a ski. I'm not feeling well. I'm only able to ski 2 sections. So, we still have to take care of skiers. We know the ski marathon weather that day could be anywhere from, +2 and raining to -35. As in the last 10 years, we've had both of those extremes. All our checkpoints are going to be equipped with warming buses for emergency. So we expect to have a bus at each checkpoint for emergency that will be able to house skiers. And we will arrange to have extraction vehicles. There'll be buses of different sizes depending on the checkpoint and what our expectations are when we do our planning. But we do expect to be fully capable to extract a skier. So you don't have to call a loved one to come and get you, because we'll take care of taking a skier. Now, I just want to make sure, the bus that's taking a skier home might have to wait a little while because there's another skier on the trail. So it's not like there's you're Ubering and taking a bus every 20 minutes. You've got to wait until we're ready to take you back, but we will take you back. And then, the part I have in yellow is what I said earlier. I just want to reemphasize it. We have buses that will depart from the dorms in Papineauville, École Saint-Michel, Montebello, and Chateau Montebello. And they travel to each starting point per the schedule that's roughly in red there. But those are start times. You can see there's another column. Again, I'm emphasizing this is sample only. We're ready to nail this down. We're actually writing the skier guide as we speak. But we'll see what those numbers when they get published. The Bible for all this is the skier guide. So and again, the departure times are specific in accordance to your to the number of sections you've signed up for. So you kind of got to be aware of that, and we'll make that clear in the skier guide. I think I'm almost getting near the end, guys. Yes, and so speaking of the skier guide, it's my last slide. I certainly aren't going to present you with a skier guide. Like I said, it's being written as we speak. The first draft is exist, and we have volunteers that are reviewing the first draft, and then we translate it and we make it kind of presentable on our website, and we'll put it up on our website. It includes, how do you travel to the CSM? We do, in particular, from the Gatineau region and the Montreal region. That is where we have the most skiers come from. We have, school buses that will take folks from those two regions right to the Montebello area or to their dorm of choice. We'll tell you where you're supposed to pick up your skier kit. So those are things like your bib, the toque, and the badge that you get, and whatever else there is in a skier kit that will be for you. When you sign up during registration, you actually identify where you want to pick up your skier kit, and we kind of know from we have 1,400 skiers. We know where they're all going to pick up their kit, and we get the skier kits delivered to each of these dorms appropriately. There'll be dormitory information. Just to be clear, if you've never done the event, the dorm is typically a high school gym, something of the sort. People bring, an air mattress. It's a little bit like communal camping. They bring a sleeping bag. They bring, showering stuff, some dry clothing. Someone asked me the other day if there's a way to dry your clothing. A little bit, but it's not the greatest. If you're going to ski both day, I always say bring a dry set of clothes for the next day is the safest thing to do, really. And again, there will be showers, and there will be food as well. We have details on how you start your CSM in terms of which bus do you get on and where do you go to get to the start line. Some details about the checkpoints, what the checkpoints include, some safety tips for the trail, more detailed information on the trail itself. But in the meantime, while you're considering registration, the best thing to do is to go on our website and read the trail descriptions there. And then, a little bit on how the day finishes and how you get home on Sunday. In the case of, again, the Gatineau and the Montreal people, it's, we have a bus system that takes them home. There are a lot of people, that choose to stay at an Airbnb in the area or a motel or, who explore other things depending on, what they want to do. And again, because the event is more centrally located and there isn't these very far away start and finish lines where, you might have to have two cars, have, a couple of people drive in one car, leave one car somewhere and go get the car. It's all a little bit simpler this year. We do know that some folks, again, the kind of the Gatineau, Ottawa, Montreal folks, might choose to drive to Montebello each day. That is certainly feasible now. And at the end of the event, you pick up your medals, depending on what categories you've done. I'll remind tours, one of the nice things that we did, if you're a regular tour and you're not familiar with this, as you keep coming back to the event year after year, there is a time comes when maybe you have skied 50 sections. That takes most people 8 to 10 years, and you are eligible for something we call the Weber Award, which is a permanent bib number, the same way that the Gold Skiers do. We have a similar program for the tours, which I think is a wonderful thing. And so we do have quite a few people that have, if you see them, I think it's a pink bib. If you see a pink bib on the trail, it's someone that has, through years of commitment to the event, have skied 50 sections. And we're not a loppet, we're not a race. We're kind of an event that emphasizes the kind of the culture of being outside and enjoying the wilderness and being kind of healthy by moving on your own through the forest. And we kind of appreciate people that keep coming back and keep doing the event and ski sections and sections, and the years go by. And I have to say, I was doing it's very humbling. I was doing the French webinar yesterday, and Pierre Lortie was there, and it was 51 years at the Canadian Ski Marathon, and I thought he looked rather young for someone who has skied at 51 years, but I was just absolutely blown away. It's a beautiful event. If you've never skied it, please come and ski, or get in touch with one of us to talk one-on-one, and we'll gladly motivate you to come and ski. So we're going to go to Q&A. I'm sure.
Just to give you a break for a second there, this year, for the second time in a row, we have one or two skiers who will be skiing with their quadruple platinum permanent bib, yes, meaning they have achieved over 40 gold awards.
Yes.
In addition to building up through touring bronze, silver, and gold. It's unbelievable.
It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. Yeah. I mean, I still remember I try to avoid telling stories about the ski marathon because I never shut up, as you know. But my first year at Gold Camp, there was a gentleman who was getting, quote unquote, only his 5th gold and was getting a permanent bib. And I was like, by golly, how did this guy do this? You know, he keeps coming back year after year, and he's done this 5 times. And anyway, so thank you for, being with us tonight. We're not necessarily done right now, but I'm just gonna, say a big thank you from all of us. I have this email address, which you've probably seen. It is on our website, info@skimarathon.ca. That's how you reach us. If Marianne cannot answer a question, she often gets a hold of one of us that's on the screen right now, or someone else out of our volunteer group to help answer the questions. So we can typically answer the questions.
Well, we've been getting lots of questions coming in through the chat, which I've been answering. I see that Cynthia's answered questions on the Q&A. So keep on delivering the questions. They've all been excellent.
So answered.
And it's not necessarily appropriate to identify and single out any of the participants and so on, but I do want to reach out to one in particular. You've already mentioned him without realizing it. Our skier from Utah is with us on the call tonight. Great to see you, Rick.
Well, I mentioned someone with ski from Utah, so hello, Rick. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, Rick has got to be on this call. And just so you folks know, I'll mention something else, actually, because I can keep talking about the ski marathon. We do have an ambassador program. If you're ever interested in helping out, we have anywhere from 30 to 50. It varies from year to year. There's a young woman on our board, Jillian Rick, who manages the ambassador program and does a phenomenal job. We have people that are spread out mostly through North America. Of course, there's a concentration, in Ontario and Quebec, but we have ambassadors in the Northeast US, a little bit in Western Canada and the Yukon, I believe. And there's a gentleman, his first name is Rick, who's on the call, who's from Utah and is a very passionate individual who, helps give us a lot of exposure in different parts of North America. And so ambassadors are people that, care a little bit about the event and want to do a bit of volunteering and help promote us. We need, they're kind of a marketing branch for us in a way, you could say. They're, folks that love the event and understand it well enough. A lot of them end up doing little slideshows or talks in their local communities and local sports stores. And so if you're ever interested in helping us out, by all means, reach out. We always appreciate a bit of help.
And Rael, this reminds me of another program we should probably mention to people as a reminder. Yes. We also have a program in the marathon referred to as our official training trails. So we have Nordic ski centers spread around Canada and US over, I think it's 53 of them right now, where we have designated trails that we think are great places to train for the event. So if you're building up your training and want to explore other ski centers, we encourage you to go to our webpage and see these 53 different places. And at the same time, if you're going to register for the Canadian Ski Challenge, then skiing your virtual event at a variety of these places would be wonderful. I think I've skied at almost 25 of them right now and love every one of them. And thanks to Rick, who we've been referring to, two of them we have, one in Utah at an Olympic ski center, and a new one just added this week through Rick at Aspen. So, but we have lots in the Ottawa, Montreal, Laurentians, eastern townships toward Quebec City. We've got Newfoundland, we've got Alberta, BC. So encourage you to try these.
Yeah, I see. So one of the questions that I saw in the chat. So sure enough, if if you need to amend and make changes to your registration, you can reach out through info@skimarathon.ca. If through the winter your training is going either better or not as good, or there's an issue, and you need to change a certain aspect of your registration, whether it's increasing the number of sections or decreasing, you can reach out through that email address. It's something we're accustomed to doing. Then by all means as well, if you during the weekend, if you committed to 3 sections, we really want you, it's kind of a, best effort that you're going to put forward, that you're going to try to ski the 3 sections. And, I always want people to kind of challenge themselves and be happy with what they've done and try to do the most they can. But if the weekend of the event, you're only skiing 2 sections, it's, like I said, there'll be warming buses, and we will extract skiers who skied, less than they thought they were going to ski. We don't anticipate that to be like a lot of skiers. So.
I don't see any further questions on the chat, and I see Cynthia replying to one interesting question on the Q&A about picking up medals. And so again, this year, like other years, at the end of the event, you'll be returning back to the Papineauville High School, where you will be able to pick up the traditional medals, things like the Coureur de Bois and so on. This particular person asked about special medals for kids, and I'm suspecting those are a group of kids who registered as a team, and the team may have won an award that allowed them to pick up medals.
There is a place on our website, right, Chris, that will describe, we have a variety of awards that's age-based, depending the number of skier sections you ski on a Saturday, Sunday. I don't remember the name of them all because there's a few of them, but they are like bronze and silver and gold awards for kids, right, of the certain age groups that ski. If they ski 2 sections, they get bronze. If they do 3, it's silver, and 4, it's gold.
The information, people should be aware, we've recently upgraded our or moved to a new website, and I can't promise that 100% of the content from the old site has moved over yet. I think that material is on the new website. If not, we'll have to push to get it there.
Sorry for putting you on the spot on that one. Yeah, we've been together for an hour, and we're not seeing a lot of new questions. Oh, Permanent 2114. I love seeing this 23rd marathon. Keith Tamoy. I'm amazed. That's very very humbling. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this session. We enjoyed spending the hour with you. Just talking about the ski marathon is always fun. So if you see, or particularly me, I know I will be on the trail this year. My bib number is 112. Don't be shy and just don't trip me, but say a little hello. So I'll call the meeting to a close. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Cynthia.
Before I do that, I see a complex question from Karen Leans. Okay. I will reach out to you, Karen, by email and go into that.
Awesome. And again, if something hasn't been answered, you can go to info@. But thank you, everybody. Pleasure chatting with you all. At this point, I will stop the recording.